Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 229. An Eccentric's one thing, but Bohemian's quite another awesome thing. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well.
Decent.
Just decent?
Decent. Getting ready to move. 95% packed.
95?
95.
Wow.
Got
Impressive.
some closet stuff along with some paperwork, and our table's a mess. I need to organize it and pack it all away, and then dishes and clothes, or not clothes, dishes, food, and toiletries that we're currently using. And then stuff on the walls. I've been waiting to take stuff off the walls because nothing makes it feel less like a home without stuff on it. So there's a huge mound of boxes, but we still got stuff on the walls.
I usually take stuff off the walls first just because I can pile the boxes higher.
I don't want them that high. Well, they're all in front of the counter, too. So in front of the island, so I don't want them too high. I plan on gathering them all together because there are still some like in the hallway closet and on the bookshelves, and taking a picture of this massive box of boxes because it's a lot.
Can we build a fort?
I don't know if you could with these. Some of them are heavy.
You put those on the bottom.
Most of them are heavy.
It's a solid fort. Nobody's getting in that.
Sounds to me like you overpacked the boxes.
No, not for the box. Just I wouldn't want that over my head. Depends on the kind of fort you built. I have an empty box that you use for a roof, I guess.
What do you guys do this week
Have you never built a box fort?
besides pack?
No, I don't think I
It's
have.
not like an igloo. You don't
Well,
have a roof on it.
I think of like a blanket fort or...
No. Box fort, it's like a castle. You just put the walls up and you build parapets. And, you know,
Gotta be able to look over the walls so you can huck things.
Oh, we could probably do
gotta
that.
huck things at
I
the
don't know
invaders.
where we'd have room to build it.
You have to huck things at the Huns.
Cattle over the walls.
Fetch a mush.
One of my favorite memes I've seen recently is Bard coming up to the hobbits, or not the hobbits, the dwarves, once they've got the mountain, and it's that line of dialogue instead of what they actually said. Do you guys do anything?
There's someone else up there we could talk to.
Oh, besides catching up with shows, I've been playing Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds all week. Sean and I figured out how to get it installed on our Macs, so we're good to go. We have one little
Which
glitch,
was a side
but-
trip that we ended up getting deleted. Our conversation.
Yeah, that's
about
right.
that.
Yeah.
You should have been there for that. That was quite awesome.
But it's a classic game, and I'm having a ton of fun playing it again. Sean and I actually, after we recorded last week, we got on his LAN and started playing a LAN game too. So we got that working. We can't get it working yet from house to house, but we can get working if we're on the same network. So
Join us.
that's been fun. Oh,
Join us.
I forgot how much I love that game.
I always struggled at it, but I enjoyed it.
I did something that I know you did this week.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well,
did you?
Can I
did
start?
not.
Because I actually had some lead up to it, because I think middle of last week I went ahead and got copies of Mad Max, Road Warrior, and Beyond Thunderdome. And I will always call it Road Warrior, even though it is officially Mad Max 2. I did not realize when it first came out it was called Mad Max 2. It was later, for American audiences, was released as Road Warrior. And I watched the first one because I thought, I don't remember that one very well, because it's been a long time since I'd seen that one. And remember I was talking about the overdub? I loaded up this copy and I started it and I was like, that actually sounds like Mel Gibson, and the dubbing isn't that bad. And then I went, that is Mel Gibson. The copy that I got is the actual original Australian copy, which apparently was re-released after people figured out that we were smart enough to understand Australian accents. When I was a kid, I saw the American overdub, and it's drastically noticeable Now, in hindsight, this was like clean. I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. But anyway,
You can understand it.
yeah. So I got
not a lick of it. But
I loaded up the first copy because I thought I got a little nostalgic after you talked about it the last weeks, and I watched it and I went, yeah, it's pretty good. And then I thought, well, I'll go on. I've got the other two, so I'll watch Road Warrior. So a couple days later, I watched Road Warrior. I think Friday morning, maybe I watched the Road Warrior, and I still couldn't get too excited about seeing Mad Max Fury Road until Holly and I on Saturday night we were watching, or I was reading an article, and it said that it had a 99% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Nothing gets a 99% fresh rating. So then I was intrigued, but then I thought, well, I won't be able to see it until the following week because we were going to record on Sunday. So then when Keith texted and said, can we push off till record on Monday, which by the way, we're recording on Monday. If you hadn't noticed, it's not on the feed yet. I thought, there's an 11 o'clock showing tonight. So then I hadn't watched.
Is that opportunity?
I hadn't watched Beyond
Uh-oh.
Thunderdome yet. So I said, I told Holly, I said, I think I'm going to go to a movie tonight. She said, that's fine. I don't care to see it. And she said, you'll be gone anyway. We're going to be asleep. So I scurried downstairs at 9 o'clock and went.
Good point.
I scurried downstairs at 9 o'clock and loaded up Beyond Thunderdome and watched it really quick before I went. And I literally got over. I got to the credits, and I didn't watch all the credits, but I got to the credits at 10 till, and the movie starts at 11.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so I jumped in the truck and I drove to the theater. It takes about 5 minutes.
This
from
is
my
where you
house,
cue the na 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 na.
Got in there, got my ticket.
15 minutes are going to be trailers anyway.
Got set down at 10:59, and the trailers came on, and man, they got a buttload of trailers in front of
Yeah,
that
you could have
movie.
finished. You probably could have watched Thunderdome again.
I looked at my watch, and it didn't actually start until like 11:20. I was like, 20 minutes worth of credits, or not credits, trailers.
Honestly, that's how long it was for Avengers.
Wait a minute, no,
at least in 2D.
I
the first time in 2D, it was
both times I saw it was not near as many trailers. But anyway, oh my gosh. Wow, it is so well done. It's got a fantastic story. It's a standalone film. You don't have to have seen any of the previous ones, but it's still in the same vein. Tom Hardy steps into the Hardy steps into the role, and
or as I like to call him, Bane.
Steps into the role and just knocks it out of the park. He's very. I mean, he didn't try to do anything different than Mel did. He played the character as the character was, and it just I had a blast watching it. I don't think it's the best movie of the year. I can't say that yet, but it was tremendous. It was a tremendous amount of fun and totally worth it.
It's the best one I've seen so far this year.
I saw it in 3D because there was only a 3D viewing at 11 o'clock. And so I went into it a little, do I really want to pay full price for 3D? And the 3D is really well done.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Because we saw it in 2D. And
it's a little dark. The film's dark, but they usually are. But it's, I mean, as for 3D, it's a little, almost, it's on the verge of being too dark because 3D already knocks down that. Yeah.
Makes it darker.
But
it's still 98%
the 3D's done
on
really well.
Rotten Tomatoes.
But unfortunately, it got beat by Pitch Perfect this week. 2. Yeah.
Hey, but these two are the first ones to beat Avengers yet, right? Didn't Avengers win last week too?
I don't remember.
I can't imagine Hot Pursuit won.
Yeah,
Avengers had 2 weeks.
Fell to 3 this week, didn't it?
Yeah.
We went and saw it in 2 days, and it was just there's maybe 15, maybe 20 minutes of quote unquote setup at the beginning, but that setup is kind of couched within an action sequence.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the chase starts.
The whole movie's the chase.
Yeah. The chase starts 20 minutes in, and that's the rest of it.
Chase that they said they spent days and days and days upon filming.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The whole movie.
The whole movie's the chase.
Charlize Theron said we spent 186 days filming an action scene. Because that's
true.
That's what it is. It is nonstop.
With the exception of a couple of pauses where they do have to stop. It's just...
But they're still being chased.
They're still being chased. It's just... Wow.
I heard it's a really good feminist film, too, actually. That Charlize Theron's role is a great feminist role.
I have problems saying that it's a feminist movie. Are there strong female characters in it? Yes.
I didn't click any of the articles wanting to avoid spoilers. So I don't
is
know if
there
that's
a,
what they're implying more than anything else.
Well, I think from what I've been able to gather, a lot of the male chauvinist idiots are upset that there were women characters with speaking dialogue lines in their Mad Max film. Just like that's kind of what the argument boils down to, quite honestly, is, well, this is a testosterone movie, and you know, it's not. I can't necessarily go into too much of the what I feel is George Miller's rebuttal to that without spoiling a potential plot point.
Even the characters that would be considered the damsel role were still very strong characters.
Yeah.
Themselves.
Charlize Theron's character in this is kind of like Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, or she's just a badass, you know, and she just take no prisoners, and it's Mad Max, but it's technically her movie.
Well, I tell you, it strikes a balance between her character and Max.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because the trailers make it look like Max is just kind of a small footnote to the movie.
No, he's there, but
he has very little dialogue, too.
Yeah, well, in typical Max fashion,
that's kind of been fitting with the first film.
Yeah, he shows up and things happen to him, you know.
Not at all. He's got a lot of dialogue in the first film. I think he's got less in the second film.
Less in the second.
Okay, maybe
that's... And then he's got a lot again in the third film.
Yeah. I guess once he gets with the kids, but... No, it's, and, you know, I'm blown away. Just blown away by how good this movie was, how nonstop this movie was and everything. And it wasn't until we got home and got into bed and we'd been talking all the way, blah, 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 and laid there. And we went to the late Thursday night showing.
Oh, yeah.
So we were at 10:30 knowing that, well, Mel's got to be at work early. This is going to be a late night. Okay. And it wasn't until we got home and got into bed that I finally felt my muscles start to uncoil because it was...
Oh, it's an intense film.
I was exhausted by the time it was over, but in a good way. Just like, wow. I can't say enough good things about this movie.
And there's a point where I thought the film was over. I thought, okay, that's it. The chase is over. Wait, what? What? And there's another 30 minutes.
Let's do it again.
Yeah. It's like, what?
It was on my list to see. I wanted to rewatch all the originals, and Sarah has no interest in it. So I was going to maybe wait till the cheap theater, but now I'm going to go
can't
see
imagine
it on my week off.
In any way, shape, or form that Sarah would have a good time with this film.
I would.
Honestly. She's just that.
I would have. Well, it's pretty violent too.
Yeah.
I would have waited myself if it hadn't been for that 99% rating, and every other feed on my news feed on Facebook
I've seen nothing bad about it,
was great stuff, and I was like, all right, I got to see this before we record. So
I felt a little bad Friday morning because I was kind of force shoveling it down everybody's throat on Facebook. I was going, oh, here's another article about it. Yeah, what this said. Oh, here's something else.
Well, that's another thing that scared me, because if Sean likes it, I usually don't.
Well, then I'm bound to love it because both of us love it.
Every great blue moon, we get to have one in common. But
still not all excited about Jurassic World, though. Seeing that trailer again.
The new trailer made me excited for it.
I'm still excited.
I mean, I was excited to begin with, but the new trailer was like, oh, okay, cool.
The kids are jazzed to see it, so we'll see it when it comes out.
And it's got Star-Lord, man.
Oh, I like Chris Pratt.
But yeah, and I think 80 to 90% of it is practical.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of digital.
I think I saw somewhere 92% of it is practical effects.
Wow.
I mean, they used them, like the storm, obviously, and some of the stuff you see in the trailers. Like, okay, well, that's all of the vehicles, all of the stunts, all the explosions.
The two-headed lizard. I can say that because
there's a two-headed
very beginning of the film. Two-headed lizard. It was definitely.
They didn't go find an actual two-headed lizard?
No, definitely.
But I loved the world building that he did with it, and just it really felt like there's so much more, like,
but it's
architecture, the pieces of how all this stuff works.
But it's still the whole movie is an all-encompassing story, and that's what I liked about it. Is I didn't have to. There were no callbacks, but there were subtle winks and nods. There was no. I mean, it was all this one confined story. I didn't have to concentrate on A plots or B plots. Obviously, I had to concentrate on A plot. I didn't concentrate on B plot or C plot or subtleties or just little nuances. I was just all straightforward.
Not look subtle.
No,
it was all
straightforward. There's no subtle. Even the production design even went so far as when the war rig, which what a great name, pulls out. You've seen the truck in the previous ones. If there's a tanker. There's always a tanker truck that they've got to deal with at some point. This thing pulls out. They don't make black in this shade of black. This is a nightmare on wheels. This thing is just like, and I remember sitting in the theater going, "That's a scary truck." I mean, it's just that the whole thing's intense, and it's like, okay, yeah. No, the production design on this was great. The Citadel was fantastic. The costuming.
I thought the tribe that lives out in the Badlands. Not giving anything away here either, but their spiky cars with the really rust look. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
They looked rusted.
Is that what Beast is part of?
No.
No? Okay.
Nope. It took me about 2/3 of that movie to figure out who he was. And I automatically default to Skins because that's what I first ever saw him on before I even saw.
For those that don't know, we're talking about Nick Holt.
Yeah.
Oh, the albino guy. Mm-hmm.
One of them.
One of them.
He's not. None of them were albino. They were painted, but they were with a white. The Wild Boys, I think, is what they call them.
Well, see, that's something else that I kind of I love it's a self-contained movie and it does all this, but it also it could raise these questions because they talk about the fact that they're the Half-Life tribe, and it's like, okay, so are they Half-Life tribe because they're all irradiated and that's why they're a bunch of albinos, or are they the Half-Life tribe because they're not expected to make it? You can go either way with it.
To do with him being albino, they painted themselves. You saw them blowing the powder on.
Well, that was different though. They had the chrome look when they.
No. I'm talking about when Joe, is that the guy's name?
Emotin Joe.
Whatever. And then by the end of the film, Tom Holt, his powder or paint is practically gone. He's got pink skin.
Right,
I mean, he's pretty white. I mean, you get the impression
He's already pale.
He's pale. Yeah.
And you get the impression that because of something that happens in the movie or a necessity that they need in the film, that they are pale for a reason. But that's probably what you're alluding to.
They're albinos.
They need blood bags. I can say that. Wow.
Everything about that movie rocked.
And then
so hard. Let me know when you're ready to go. I might just bail.
Okay.
And then that comes full circle too.
I know.
So good.
There's not a throwaway.
No.
Everything
comes back on
things make sense. Things, the practicality of it, that they do stuff and then they have to. It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, so there's no, dewbacks were put there for whimsy. You don't get any of that.
Nothing is in there for whimsy.
Yeah, it's all.
You gotta appreciate a filmmaker who can make sure there's no wasted anything.
I will say, I think they made a misstep on the marketing campaign. I really think they should have said, from George Miller, the director of Happy Feet,
and Babe, Pig in the City,
Pig in the City, comes Mad Max Fury.
We should have seen that coming, though, that he was going to start doing those kind of films after Thunderdome. I rewatched that the other night and I went, wow. I don't remember this one being so kid-friendly.
The PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Did you guys watch any other movies?
Oh, there may have been another movie in there. It's kind of completely overshadowed by Fury Road.
We got a couple movies in between packing. I watched, after finishing Netflix's Daredevil, I decided to go and watch the movie because I'd never actually seen it before.
And?
It's not great, but it's not horrible.
No, it's not as bad as everybody.
There's a lot of the action's a bit over the top. There's some stuff that I'm like, I know he has superhero abilities, but I question him being able to do that.
Like leapfrogging between buildings as he crawls up to the ceiling.
No, because there's some of that even in the Netflix Daredevil. Maybe not to the extent. But
but it's more parkourish in the series.
Netflix.
And this it's a little more supernatural.
You can tell it's a bit more wire work used in this.
There's a lot of wire work used in the movie.
It was the 90s.
Yeah, and the horrible soundtrack. Horrible soundtrack of new metal. But there's a lot of good stuff. Jon Favreau as Foggy is fantastic. He was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
I think
I think
Bullseye was.
Bullseye was very enjoyable, if not scenery chewing.
Well, I think he needed to be.
Yeah.
That film, that's the only scenery chewing villain that I...
The downside of the movie is you don't let Fisk breathe to be a bad guy. I mean, his thing is he's the gang boss of this area, and he wants to stay that way. So there's no character, there's nothing. He's just the bad guy because he's the bad guy. Bullseye gets more character development than Fisk, and Fisk is the big bad. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, you make kind of a misstep there, and then the Elektra stuff's kind of meh for me. I thought the visualization of his abilities was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Especially, have you seen it? You saw the original.
I've not seen the director's cut, but I've seen the
Especially that scene on the roof where he talks about hearing every single bit of rain fall and hit every surface, and then that's how he can see. That was really well done, I thought. I really liked that aspect of it. Then we watched Jersey Boys. That was okay. The story of the Four Seasons.
Okay. I knew it sounded familiar. I had to place it.
That's in my queue on HBO now if it hasn't fallen out already.
It's pretty good. The first hour's a bit dry, mostly because it's from one of the guys' perspective, who's a... and then it gets to Songs I Know, and it switches... You said the A word, it's okay.
That's an acceptable one on TV. I never stray too far from what you can hear on primetime TV.
On primetime all the time.
It's not like I broke out Carlin's 7 words that you're not supposed to say.
There are worse words I could call Tommy, and he would deserve them.
Now it'll be edited, because we called too much attention to it.
I'm just curious for future notice.
Now I know, too.
I want to know,
He's a big jerk.
Do I need to drop...
You shouldn't use the A word either, but I was going to let that one slip.
It's the first hour is rather slow, and then it starts picking up. Very fascinating. I didn't know a lot about the Four Seasons or Tommy Valley. Frankie Valley. So it was really interesting. It's the guy who plays Frankie is the guy who won the Tony on Broadway. So he does a really good job with it. And there's more of their songs than I realized. Once they actually got to the songs I recognized. But it's definitely worth seeing, especially if you're a fan of the Four Seasons. Going into them knowing only a couple of their songs, it was kind of meandering for me a little bit. But overall, it's pretty good.
I'm a sucker for those 50s and 60s musical
kind of biopics.
Did you ever see Beyond the Sea? Beyond the Sea.
Yes.
I think that has much more
Tommy
rewatchability. Bobby Darin.
Bobby Darin. So we get Tommy in everything.
And Sarah wasn't as impressed with Jersey Boys either. So
we watched Masters of the Universe.
The Dolph Lundgren.
The Dolph Lundgren one. We've kind of been on an 80s kick.
Just the 80s.
Oh, we did Mad Max, so I was like, the 80s are back, man, in a big way. And I don't remember what called it up. Something about, I made a Masters of the Universe joke. And Mel's like, I've never seen it. I was like, what? How could you not have seen Masters? So I promptly went out and bought a copy. It was $5.99 at work. I was like, I'll totally pay $5.99. Is it a good movie? No, it's a piece of junk, but it's totally worth $5. So we watched it.
It's been a long time since I've seen that one.
And what's strange is this is coming right off the heels of Firewalker, which we watched. You remember Firewalker? Yeah, you remember Firewalker. Yep. You probably, Keith. I don't think you remember
Firewalker.
Lou Gossett Jr. and Chuck Norris.
It's a Alan Quartermain, isn't it?
In the vein of, I guess, but it's As a kid, Firewalker was the greatest movie ever. It was on HBO every night, and these two guys, and they go out adventuring and digging up treasures, and they don't normally get. And Chuck Norris and Lou Gossett Jr. actually have really good chemistry when they're on screen together. And the love interest is Melody Anderson, who played Dale from Flash Gordon, so it was an automatic in for me there, right? And we got a copy in at work, and I went, and I bought it. We're gonna watch Firewalker on Blu-ray. Oh my god! And we got home and got the popcorn and booted it up, and wow,
it doesn't hold up as well.
You can't go home again. The movie tries really, really hard to. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It doesn't know if it wants to be an Indiana Jones, Alan Quartermain adventure, or if it wants to be kind of a Romancing the Stone comedy, or if it's a. I mean, it's all over the map. It really has no. And like I said, as a kid, man, this was the greatest thing ever. And afterwards, I
Max Donegan, that was his name.
Yeah. I took it back to work and sold it back to him.
Wow.
Nope. been down that road now. I don't need to do that. But Mel's review was like, "You liked this?" Like, once upon a time, I did. Yeah.
Did she like Masters of the Universe?
She said that was worth $5. That was kind of the extent of her review on that one.
The other one we watched was Super 8.
Had you seen it?
I had not.
You hadn't seen it?
You hadn't seen it at
I
all.
just had never gotten around to it.
Okay, and
I enjoyed it. It was really well done.
It was on Netflix for a long
I know,
time.
and it was in my queue for the entire time. I kept going, I need to watch that. And Sarah was always, yeah, I would like to see that. And I was like, okay, I'll wait and we'll watch it sometime. And we never did. Finally, we did. Sarah thought it was really weird. I thought it was a great blend of JJ and Spielberg. It has very much, I could see what you guys meant. That had that Spielberg 80s fun
felt
film.
like it was made
But
back
there
then.
was a bit more weight to it, I thought. Just a bit more serious, maybe. The characters, I thought, most of them had great motivation for doing everything they did in the movie. That I did not expect. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was... You're totally Chuck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So,
Production value.
yeah. I got a real train, baby. I thought that to myself, and actually in the theater, it's like, yeah, that's me.
I'd highly recommend it. If my mom hasn't seen it, I'm going to highly recommend it to her because she would love it. I'm weighing on if I want to own it because I don't know how much I'd rewatch it, but I really enjoyed it. And I come down kind of in the middle between you two on the packaging. Because they had this big argument between Glenn really liked the original Blu-ray packaging because it looked like a Super 8 box. Sean liked the steel book that had the Drew Struzan artwork.
Drew Struzan-esque.
Yeah, esque artwork. And it just if it weren't for the end scenes during the credits of showing the actual movie that they shot, I'd be more inclined to go with Drew Struzan-esque because it drops the movie part of it about halfway through and then continues on with the adventure. But then it just brings it back full circle. So I'm kind of in between. I like both now that I've seen the movie. Straddling the line.
Very diplomatic of you.
Yes. You didn't watch anything else, Glenn?
Just caught up on shows. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. finale was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was.
It rolled.
We got another lost hand joke, too. It's not really a joke, but it feeds into that whole lost hand. All of the Phase 2
Star
films
Wars Phase
now
2
have
stuff.
somebody lose an arm or a hand. In a very most dramatic way.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what they do in season 2.
And I watched the finale of Arrow this week, too. So I'm caught up. I'm caught up with Flash. Flash felt like a season from the finale.
It sure did.
And we got another.
So did it make sense of how
No, it still didn't work, but I was fine with it. It was very comic book-esque how these characters would show up here because
the plot needs it.
The plot needed it. Yeah, I mean, at least fortunately, it's at least alluded to when he shows up and he has the dark black with the kind of, I know it's not beaded, but it's studded outfit. He says, "Oh, you've lost the green."
The League of Assassins.
The League of Assassins outfit.
It makes that's what Merlin wore.
They try to fix it that way, so I was fine with that. Yeah. They at least acknowledged it.
So it was more of a Flash issue than an Arrow issue for you.
Well, the Arrow. The
Arrow
problem,
episode.
Yeah, the problem I had with Flash. Yeah, it's more of the problem I had with the Flash and Arrow was there's a line dropped in Arrow or in Flash where he says, if I may need a favor from you, and Barry says, sure, anything.
Yeah, that's in Flash. Yeah.
Yeah, so that comes to fruition in Arrow, but my whole thought with I always love the Flash crossover, and I said this last time they did this is Barry is very much more comic book Barry Allen when he's on Arrow. Somehow they know how to write the character, and I'm fine with the way that Barry is on the Flash because that's the character they've developed. But the Flash shows up, takes care of what he needs to take care of and then takes off. So he's only in the first 2 minutes of the show. The problem I have with it is if the Flash had just stuck around, they wouldn't have needed a finale of Arrow because he could have just taken care of a lot of things. So that was it felt gimmicky.
Well, he had stuff to get back to in Central City.
Apparently so. But whatever happens this week. So.
Yeah, I mean,
actual finale,
the plot's not resolved yet. There's still a big showdown to go.
You could have left that though the way it was and picked up next season. It so could have been a season finale.
Really could have
One
been.
of the problems inherent with superpowers, we had a discussion with the Avengers coming out about the fact that I liked the Fox version of Quicksilver better for the movie. And I was actually talking to Odd Duck Phil, and he says, yeah, but that's actually one of the problems in and of itself with that film, because he finally got around to watching Days of Future Past. I said, what's that? And he says, well, Quicksilver is arguably the most powerful guy that they have on the team at that point, and they don't take him.
Yep.
To it's like, what do we got to do? We got to save Trask. Whoosh, pick him up, whoosh, and he's gone.
I think
that would have been it. There's no movie.
That's the problem with the Speedster. But luckily, the Avengers, I think, played it right, and it's probably beneficial that, again, if you haven't seen Avengers, I'm about to spoil something, but that they take care of the Quicksilver issue.
Well, and in Avengers,
what,
you notice
take care of him.
You notice in Avengers he gets wounded.
Josh held a gun to his head, fired it. I think that's an adequate descriptor.
The Flash doesn't seem to get as winded as Pedro did in Avengers.
Yeah,
doesn't seem to get the stitch in his side. So it seems like they just utilize his abilities slightly differently in Avengers also.
Yeah.
He's still dealing with a huge old metabolism.
Mm-hmm. Well, they tackled that early. They tackled that early in the season. They haven't done anything.
Yeah, they really haven't brought it back up, other than the repeated fact.
Other than in Arrow when he asks everybody what they want because he's starving because he ran all the way to Sterling City.
I'm still waiting to get to my crossover on my Arrow watch. So.
You're getting there.
Yeah, I just got the Felicity backstory episode, so
that was
pretty good.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Surprised the heck out of me. Okay, what do we got in news?
News! Well, we've made reference to and talked about before. Titan is doing a multi-doctor comic event.
3 doctors.
No.
Oh,
They've revealed it's going to be a 4-doctor story.
Ooh, so are we ready to get 9 or the War Doctor?
War Doctor.
Oh.
What?
I'd rather have 9. The War Doctor works in
Day of
the Doctor and as his own story, but I'll have to see what they do with it. That almost feels like a cheat.
Well, in Paul Cornell, we trust. He's usually been pretty reliable.
Till he wrote that last story for who had them before?
IDW.
I liked that one.
I like that one too. It didn't work as a Doctor Who story, but it worked as a fan letter. A letter to the fans. I can compartmentalize it as it's not.
Elseworlds.
Yeah, it's Elseworlds.
Oh, yeah, it's totally not canon, but it was still good.
It was still a good story. It launches August 12th.
August 12th.
Is it a multi-issue arc, or is it a standalone? It is a trade, or
it is a multi-issue arc, 5-part weekly event. So all the other lines are going to come to a screeching halt, or they're going to wrap their seasons, one of the two, and start with this August 12th, run for 5 weeks, and then at some other points, the other lines will pick back up.
It would be really interesting. I don't know.
Sounds like a lead up to the series returning too.
In my humble opinion, if it were me, I'd think it would be really awesome if you came up with the idea that we wanted to do this, and you told all the writers on the other lines, okay, do whatever you need to do, but you have to be wrapped up by this point, because the last panel of this comic is
needs to set up
everybody showing up at the same time, and you do that from each line that you get to the last page, that the door opens.
It won't happen, but that'll be cool.
That's how I do it, but you know.
You never know. They've been working on this, so. Speaking of the show returning, apparently Moffat said he's going to return again.
For season 10.
For season 10. the exact quote he gave. Well, it's not, I don't think he gave a quote. In a brief interview with Wales Online, the article concludes with, having just signed up for another year of Doctor Who and with an ongoing success of Sherlock, Moffat is in place in the TARDIS of broadcasting in Wales looks secure, and for that we can be really grateful.
Yeah.
So it's not an official word. They could be speaking out of turn and saying, well, the season for the year is the one yet to broadcast.
I'm pretty sure it's season 10. I think
I'm pretty sure.
That's how the clickbait sites are reading it.
Oh, yeah. I'm just giving that grain of salt.
Yeah.
If you want it.
If you're not a Moffat fan, here's your out.
I tell you, I was a little dismayed by that news because I was kind of ready for him to be done with 9 and let's get some fresh blood in there and change things up again. I'd like to see some new ideas. I think Moffat, while he's still been telling some very good stories, and I think season 9 was phenomenal, I think that the storytelling style's gotten a little stale. And so I'm ready to get somebody else in there and see what they can do with the series.
I think some of season 9 is going to feel very different than what's come before. From what I've read.
Or season 8. I enjoyed season 8. I said season 9. I meant season 8.
I think tonally it's going to be similar to season 8, but it's going to feel very different.
Well, and
from what I've seen online,
we all stand, in Moffat we trust, and that we're kind of fanboys in that regard. I have to agree to a certain extent with some of the people that are not necessarily in the manner in which they're complaining, but the fact that they're complaining about that he doesn't seem to have the same multitasking ability that RTD had. When RTD went off and he was doing Doctor Who, and he went off and did Sarah Jane, and he went off and did Torchwood, and all three of those were running concurrently, and he was contributing episodes to all of them while still, taking care of business at home. Moffat's got Sherlock going on, and it seems like he can't quite juggle
balance the
pair of them because we've got long hiatuses on one.
Yeah, Sherlock is the one that almost suffers more because of him not being able to juggle.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like almost that we've got a lot more loose ends than what I think maybe we're accustomed to if Sherlock's on.
Yeah.
And in order to not get that, we have to have a hiatus on Sherlock. So I'm kind of in that same boat. It's like, well, yeah,
maybe that's it. Maybe I'm ready for somebody that will just focus on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So I can see it both ways. I mean, I'm excited to have him back because, I like the direction we've been, but I'm with you where I wouldn't mind seeing something new announced.
I think also what I really liked was how this benefited with a new showrunner and new actors, but I kind of like how after Russell T. Davies stepped out and Moffat stepped in, the show kind of took this dynamic shift and felt new and fresh and brand new. And again, that helped that Matt Smith came on board at that time.
Yeah.
Karen Gillan came on board at that time. So you had a new doctor, new companion. But while I think that again, season 8 was fantastic, and I thought Peter Capaldi just really, really picked up and ran with it, there was still a lot of Moffat's stamp on it. And so it sort of felt like when Tenet picked up in the middle of Russell T. Davies, it still felt like the same show. Well, this still feels like the same show.
Yeah.
So I kind of would like to see.
I think it would be really hard to do a change up like that without completely doing a full changeover like we got.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hard to have a
it
doctor transition do that change.
Certainly more difficult, yeah.
They would ease into it a little bit more, I think. That way not to just suddenly, oh, wow, this is not the same thing I was. You go into 11th Hour knowing it's at least a new doctor, and if you know anything about the background, it's a new showrunner, and you expect the tonal difference and the change and the feel. It's harder if tonally the show had been very different between Eccleston and Tennant.
And if you put yourself in a showrunner's shoes, from that standpoint, is that there's probably a little more difficulty and trepidation in coming into a show that's not changing the doctor or the companion, and that you're kind of expected to carry over with what was set up, from the previous regime, and kind of deal with that baggage, even though you're trying to put your own mark on the show, versus where Moffat came in and kind of got the opportunity to go, here you go. Obviously you still got to live up to the history of it, but
it's easier. It's a little easier for the actor to come in and when you're changing doctors, but the showrunner, because you get to put your actor stamp and
Right.
change it to the character. But yeah, like you're saying, showrunner-wise, it's a little harder.
But yeah, he's back.
Yeah. Possibly.
Maybe.
Who knows? That's it. That's all I had for news.
Well, there's one more.
Okay, Sean has a piece.
For those who didn't hear, Gallifrey One did sell out, which we expected, and it did, for next year, as well as the hotel block sold out. The Marriott LAX sold out in less than 2 minutes. Not just the Gallifrey One block, but the entire hotel sold out in less than 2 minutes.
Wow.
So that's over 1,000 rooms that were booked in a 2-minute time span. So if you were fortunate enough to get tickets to Galley, yes, there's a host of other hotels in the area. It's very dense. There's a lot of rooms available. Don't panic. And let us know if you were able to go. We are not in attendance this year or next year, as we have other fish to fry, we hope. But good luck to those of you that are going. That was the only piece that I had.
And did you hear? Did Mitch get?
I haven't heard. I don't know if anybody. I don't know if any of our group got it.
She might have a floor available to sleep on since Sean and Mel will be. All right, let's move on. Feedback. We're foregoing the tip of the week this week because we don't have one. So
I thought before we did feedback, we should do our comic giveaways.
Oh yeah,
we still have 2 available. I've only gotten 2.
We have
3.
Oh, do we have 3 now? I didn't see the third one come in then.
we have 1 available.
We have 1 available.
Holly, Ben, and Chrissy.
Holly, Ben, and Chrissy.
Assured Comics.
You are assured a comic. If anybody else would like one, I have 1 left. So write us at feedback and say, free comic, please.
First one gets it.
Go.
Well, they're already coming in. Look.
Well, look at that. Sorry.
And that's your Doctor Who Legacy tip of the week.
All right, let's move on to feedback.
First up in feedback, Dan. Dan writes, another last-minute feedback. Hello, Vortex Gents. On our last podcast, you mentioned the news of the Zygon and Osgood's return. We were speculating on whether Osgood had come back from the dead, or if this was just a timey-wimey thing. I'm assuming the latter. If you turn your attention back to the 50th anniversary episode, Day of the Doctor, when Kate Stewart, or Zygon clone, led Clara into Unit's hidden vault, now complete with convenient memory wipes, Kate mentioned that Clara had been there before. Photos of Clara in the vault were pinned to a note board to emphasize that point.
Ooh.
Now I know fandom wasn't sure what to do with this loose thread. Is it a missed adventure for Big Finish, or a book? Or will we see this again referred to later on? Again, I'll assume the latter now, allowing 12 and Clara to go back to visit Kate and Osgood before the Missy Cyberman mess. The production's continuity is maintained. We'll see evidence of this if Clara's costume outfit in the unit photo matches what she'll wear in the upcoming season's episode. What can I say? It was a quiet night after work after listening to your podcast, and my imagination fast-forwarded again. And now, your thoughts. What do you guys think? Are we going to see that other adventure?
I think it would be really cool and totally within Moffat's paintbrush to do something like that. I don't think we will.
I don't think so.
I especially with the new photos that have gone out and been posted this week.
I haven't seen any photos of Clara in those.
Not of Clara, but of Osgood. It makes me think that this is not a timey-wimey thing, that this is a future thing.
I guess we'll find out. It'd be really neat if he did.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it'd be cool.
I always just assumed, because it seemed the Doctor knew about everything down there, and I just assumed she didn't remember because it was the mind wipe stuff.
Well, it's one of those things that I think, we talked a little bit about this with continuity, is, the timeline, as fans, that we want to be able to dot the I's and cross the T's of all this kind of stuff. But Doctor Who's very much a show built on the I'll explain later and then not. So a throwaway line like, oh, you were here before, could just be a throwaway line.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, and they provided the the method of why she wouldn't remember and why we needed that exposition, too.
Right.
So
it's not just the guards. It's you, too, were a victim of this. Aha! And it makes the unit a little more nefarious and everything. But at the end of the day, it could still be just a throwaway line. On the other hand, yeah, you could totally sandwich an episode in there. And yeah, especially if, as Moffat has stated, we are going to get the explanation for why Capaldi has that face and possibly revisiting Vesuvius. Maybe we're going to travel backwards through the whole season. I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows?
He continues.
Who knows?
Glenn is without opinion.
I'm kind of agree with you guys. There's nothing really going to add.
Dan concludes, side note, my daughter and I attended Free Comic Book Day in Bloomington, Illinois. That was a busy little campus comic shop. We still haven't read everything we picked up, but we were both pleased to find a few copies of the free Doctor Who special still available. All our wallets are expecting to fully recover, eventually. Thanks again, guys. Dan and Lexi in Central Illinois.
Dan, you didn't have to pay for them. That's why they call it Free Comic Book Day.
I think that comic book store ripped you off, Dan.
You just keep doing your thing, Dan.
Our last bit of feedback comes from Chrissy,
who writes, Pigs mating with rhinos. Dear Vortex boys, all I've got this week is review stuff, so I'll get into it, and since these two are connected, it makes sense to review them together. When I started Trail of the White Worm, I thought my download had gotten messed up because it felt like I was being dropped into the story in the middle. But the story did a good job of catching me up on what had already been happening, which is a good thing because there was a lot of story to cover. The story structure actually reminds me of a Steven Moffat two-parter like The Pandorica Opens the Big Bang or Dark Water, Death in Heaven, where the two parts are connected, but they're vastly different from each other. White Worm is more about... What's her name?
Demens Furs.
Okay. Demens Furs. I would not have expected that to be spelled that way. I'm sure Chrissy's right. It's just looking weird at me now that I'm staring at it. And how she is this legendary creature from Roman times. And then you have the Poseidon adventure, which is about the Master and the Crawls with bonus androids and seriously over-the-top local guy pining for the good old days and bemoaning how Great Britain has changed. Good grief, what was up with that guy? I kept expecting him to be an android. He was so unrealistic. Leela had some really great moments, and you can tell Tom Baker's having the time of his life playing the Fourth Doctor again. And quite honestly, Jeffrey Beavers is probably my favorite version of the Master when I hear him in these audios. Anyway, lots of fun, great stories, good times. I have to cut this short. I'm doing some birthday stuff this evening, so I have to head out. Hope everyone has a good week, and I'll talk to you all later. Chrissy.
And happy birthday, Chrissy.
Happy now belated birthday, Chrissy.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
belated now. It was Sunday?
Yeah, it was Sunday this week, yesterday.
Yep.
Well, 2 days ago now.
Wibbly wobbly.
There we go, dating ourselves.
And that's it for feedback. Time to move on to our reviews. Trail of the White Worm. The legend dates back to Roman times. At least the great white worm, as white as a man, slithers out of the rocks of the dark peak gap to take animals, sometimes even children, for its food. When the Doctor and Leela arrive in the wilds of Derbyshire, only to get caught up in the hunt for a missing girl, they soon discover that the legend of the worm is very much alive, even now, in 1979. Where still, it seems the Doctor isn't the only renegade Time Lord on the trail of this deadly and mysterious worm.
Dun, dun, dun!
Chrissy hits the nail on the head with it feels they're connected, but they are very drastically different stories.
Well, I like that one leads into the other, but still having those, the different footprint of type of story that they are, and different location, all the way down to actually going to a Poseidon, leaping through the wormhole.
A lot of different casts, too. Only a few carryovers.
Well, the Master, the Colonel, and the Doctor and Leela. Because the worm's not even there at the end of...
Yeah, it's gone by that point. And we don't get any of the crawls in the first part.
Which... Because, so I'm listening to the first part, it's Trail of the White Worm, and there's actually a worm. And it's like, oh, okay, it's a bug hunt. All right, I'm with you. It's that
Not
episode.
a worm, though.
But what else? It's a worm.
worm.
It's a worm.
Wow.
Okay, so we're going to do that episode. Okay, cool. I'm listening. I loved the Colonel. The Colonel was off his rocker.
Yeah.
And at first I thought he was annoying, but the more he was off his rocker, the more I began to just go, yes. What is this guy going to do next? I want more of this guy. This guy needs a whole series. Just give him a show. Give him a show of his own and let him show up and do things. And that would be, I would listen to the hell out of that. Oh my God, he was so fun. And so the Doctor, and he's doing his thing, and Leela's doing her thing, and then the Master shows up and can't convert anybody, which initially I thought was kind of cool.
It was fun and campy.
The hypnosis isn't working. He's like, all right.
Well, it's not. It's pretty subtle though, because
Just Leela.
Leela, when he chimps on Leela, she slaps him. So you kind of think, okay, well, she just interrupted the process.
She's picked it up in her travelings with the Doctor.
Oh, I didn't even get that.
Well,
I just got the impression
of
she just slapped him. I think.
She knew what he was trying to do, at least. So,
because this would have been her first,
her first encounter.
Her first encounter with him, but
her only.
That we're aware of, yes.
Yeah, unless there's more Big Finish, because there's no televised stories with them.
Who knows? And so it's just it was really fun, and then we kind of get to the reveal that
you clearly don't, because if you did, you would have paired this with. Android Evasion instead of.
I'm getting to that. I think I felt with Jared very justified doing it with Deadly Assassin when we get
just
the name
because
drop
of the one name drop about the last time.
It's like, chronologically this is right.
But you completely destroyed us doing any sort of adversary archive on the crawls now.
I did that. I didn't know.
I didn't either. And I thought, as I listened to it, I thought, oh, well, that's unfortunate. We could have made this an adversary archive this week.
So we're going into the. Yeah, I knew the Master was in it. That's why I paired it up with Deadly Assassin. It's like, okay.
You went, Master, okay.
So then we get to the second part.
You didn't even pair it up with the right Beaver's Master, though.
Poseidon. Well, we can't do that one yet.
I know.
So. Poseidon. Why does that... Now, this is how bad it is. You guys know I've been mentally blocked on this title all since the schedule came out. It was wrong.
Right.
Like, it doesn't exist. And I'm like, la, 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 la. And nothing...
It was his mental block trying to avoid spoilers.
Apparently, because then Strax shows up, and he's all like, we're going to go and do this. And I'm like, why are the Sontaran... They're not describing a Sontaran, though. A pig and a rat? What is it? And I went from here to like way up here because it was like with the thing and the yay. And then the story kind of meandered through so many different android duplicates of. I lost count. I lost track. I thought it got muddled.
You should have read both synopses since we're reviewing both.
Go ahead and read the other one.
Reviewing both of these together. I almost made you do it, and I backed off thinking, well, they're two such different styles of stories. I can't imagine we would. Nope, we did.
No, I did. Credit where credit's due. I screwed it up and derailed it. So go ahead and read the second.
The first time the fearsome Kralls attempted to take over the Earth with the help of their android agents, things didn't go quite according to plan, thanks to the time-traveling alien Doctor and his allies at UNIT. This time, Marshal Grinwall and his belligerent cohorts are ready for them. This time, they'll make no mistakes. This time, Chief Scientist Twinwarg has not just one plan, but a backup plan and a backup plan just worked out. When the Doctor, a prisoner on the Krall's radiation-blasted home planet of Poseidon, his only companion Leela can save the day, alongside a most unlikely ally.
Dun dun dun! I'll give some a little more enthusiastic.
Really?
Okay. I like this version. I like this part of the story better. Yeah, the first one was good, but
Trail of the White Worm was very enjoyable, and it was really more of a story to build to how the Master was
That's
going to make
exactly
a
what it
worm.
was. Is the first story is a setup story. It introduces the worm and introduces a vehicle to get to Poseidon. That's it.
Yeah, that's
all there is.
And the Master's servant,
Yep.
pretty much.
The Colonel.
Which I loved the fact that the Master just kept calling him Simpleton.
Simpleton.
And he keeps correcting, it's Spindleton. I know. They had great chemistry
They
together.
did. They really did.
Really,
That's when you really
Jeffrey
realize
Beavers
that.
had great chemistry with everybody.
That's why you realize that the Colonel's really whacked out of his gourd by this point, because it's like you're just kind of thinking, okay, this is an eccentric old man in Trail of the White Worm, and then when you find out that he's been influenced by the Master and he's kind of quasi following him because of the hypnosis, but more because he has this desire to return England to its glory days, then you're like, wow, this guy is really messed up. So it made him even more enjoyable, and I think it was another thing that led to me enjoying Poseidon better, is because I think the character was really fleshed out at that point.
He has a helicopter.
Leela was so great in this entire thing, both parts.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed her.
She's been strong this entire
She really
series.
has.
She
Yeah.
really
and it's
has.
the little things, like helicop, or however she said that. And there was something else she kept mispronouncing, too, that just made me chuckle and just made me enjoy. It's just those little things that made me enjoy it so much more.
And she takes out a tank.
That's
Just
not-
by outrunning it.
By outrunning
Or
it.
outmaneuvering it, I guess
You're
I should
going to
say.
run out of gas. No baseball bat needed here.
No,
Yeah.
just outmaneuvered it.
I was
And then she turned it on him. That's what I liked. I'm going to fire it. No. Okay, come up here. That's all right. No, come on.
I was truly surprised by the first reveal that who is it? Quinn Wong or whoever was actually the Master. And then the fact that surprised me, and then the fact that he was an android, I was just like, "What?" I was just, and then
Oh, you were talking about the chief engineer or
the
whatever.
chief guy that he was masquerading as. Yeah,
That's right. A scientist
Which,
on the side.
you know, on the surface was like, whoa! But then we
that's
break it
totally the
down, it's
Master.
like, he's always got a rubber mask on. You know, okay.
I think when you boil it down, that's what I liked about both of these stories. Is it was very fan service. It was very much in line with the narrative of the Fourth Doctor season, especially the narrative of the Master through the Fourth Doctor series. When we had the decaying Master, we had the Master of Disguise, we had the androids return, we had the Krall's return. It was all of these wonderful little things that really cemented it and made it feel like a Fourth Doctor story. Yeah. And sometimes I think that's lazy, but in this situation, it was more of a, okay, you kept me guessing. I had no idea who was an android by the time this thing was over. They just kept going, wait. And so then pretty soon you're suspecting anybody could be an android at any point. I think everybody was an android at some point except for the Colonel and Leela.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was amassing the way they just kept reveal after reveal after reveal, just kept me going. So having all the familiarity of the quote-unquote tropes of Fourth Doctor,
they had a good story to
they had a great story to back it up. Yeah.
I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the premise. I really feel like once they got to the point where they were pulling the rug out from under me so many times, I kind of gave up trying to keep track of who was who. I'm not convinced that the Doctor that got in the TARDIS at the end is not an android at this point. I really was like, maybe. It just felt a little like maybe because they were trying so hard to work within the confines of the Fourth Doctor trope that they had set up, that maybe neither one of the stories was really given enough room, I think. The first one, you're right, it's purely a setup to get to the second one.
I think the first one had enough room.
But I
don't see any more story that they could have told.
Well, but
there.
I kind of
because
would
it
like
leads
to,
so much into them.
I would have liked a little bit better of a resolution than just, I invented a rain machine, trigger, and now you've opened the portal and are dead.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
Had it not killed the worm, I would have wanted more of a resolution.
Well, and I think that was a intentional grab at Lair of the White Worm, which was written by Bram Stoker, in which the worm
Lightning.
dies from lightning as well.
Yeah.
I think that was an intentional. Somebody went in that with a mindset going, Okay, name and finale.
Yeah.
Well, and it's almost one of those Doctor Who stories that is trying to explain a famous fictional piece of work.
Yeah. The problem with that, though, is...
With the Romans worshipping the worm.
Yeah. It gives it that history that, well, maybe that Bram Stoker story was based off of this. Kind of like they did with the vampires, etc.
The problem is that the Master doesn't need the crawls at all. He's got a weather machine. He could conquer Earth with lightning. He literally. We don't know. We don't know how powerful it is. We're not given any of that. It's just that to me was the MacGuffin trope. That's like, I've got this, and it's like, okay, now what?
But I like the fact that while that's kind of this grand reveal, but because this is the setup story, the ultimate MacGuffin is the Z battery. I think that's what I thought.
Oh, yeah.
Because we built to the Z battery, I thought that was nice that we cast that weather machine aside. That we cast the idea that he generated this lightning in order to destroy the worm, so the worm or create the wormhole. I mean, that was fine. But once you introduce the real MacGuffin, it was again another layer. We've pulled off the mask and revealed that it's not the real Master. It's an android. Well, it's not this particular device. It's it's just an avenue to get to the real device, which is to get the Z battery,
which is to go back to the regeneration. Which that part I liked. It was like, okay, cool. So it's not just
the Master's not trying to take over the world. It's him trying to regenerate, and this complex of a plot seems very in line with this Master.
Yes.
Especially coming off the heels of Deadly Assassin. That's a complex plot he had to try to take down the Time Lords and the Doctor, and I still don't know if I fully understand what he was going after.
Because Deadly Assassin is very convoluted. That's the problem with Deadly Assassin.
It's good, but it's complex.
It tries really hard, but it doesn't quite get there. It resolves satisfactorily, but it's almost too interwoven. Whereas this one just continues instead of weaving itself back, it just continues to drop the last thing and move on to the next thing. So it continues to move forward to the ultimate goal, which I thought played out much better.
See, I think maybe that's my problem with it, is I have kind of the same feeling for this one as I did for Frontier in Space, Planet of the Daleks. That I really felt Frontier in Space was building towards something, and then we dropped all of it so that we could go off and have this other adventure, because that's the setup story for this one.
Right.
And going back and watching Frontier in Space, as we did however many months ago, relatively recently, by itself, not doing it as part of that, made me really enjoy that story better, but I still felt like there was a little, I kind of wish that had been,
carried through.
I want more of that. And so that's kind of where this one left off for me. It was just like, it's not that White Worm was bad. It wasn't. It was very good. I just wanted a little bit more. And then we jump over into the crawl plot. You guys know me. Android invasion! I'm awesome. And they go to the planet, and he's in the village talking about the way England used to be. And I was like, they rebuilt it, because that's exactly what, this is so cool.
I got the impression the War Memorial that he was setting that he was there to set the bomb down to trigger is that monolith that he was tied to in Android Invasion. I think the only thing that bothered me about Trail of the White Worm that I felt was left unresolved was we set up a lot of these sub characters that they do end up. There were far too many sub characters set up in the first one that did not carry over to the second one.
Didn't get resolved.
And that was the biggest problem. The girl that was trying to run away and the boy that was charged with keeping an eye on her were carried over, but everything else was like, I wanted to know a little bit more about what was going on here.
Did they carry over? I didn't think they did.
I didn't think they did.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're right. They got some resolution at the end. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
They could have carried over, but I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's rare.
Well, they ran off and got the unit.
Well, yeah, that was the extent.
Had to go deliver the message.
Had to go deliver the message. And nice. What was the? I felt like I was missing. The whatever incursion was going on in Canada with telephone poles coming alive. I feel like that's something I should know, but don't. Does anybody recognize it?
No, I didn't
No,
know.
Okay.
I wondered the same thing too. I was
So-
like, is that an actual thing?
It was another way to put the Brigadier
Yeah,
off so that you
and
didn't
not in
have to
Geneva.
know the story. Yeah, and not in Geneva. And not in South America.
Which I thought was clever. It was like, oh, you're doing... Oh, but you're not. Okay.
I think by doing that, though, by sending him to these different locations, not on the moon either, but just sending him to all these different locations, I think it really kind of makes UNIT more of a global police rather than just very UK-centric, which it was in the television series.
Yeah. But, like I said, I felt like there was a gag that I missed because the mental filing cabinet flew open. I was going, telephone poles. I got nothing. Maybe the Autons? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and the wiki doesn't mention anything.
Okay,
of what
so
he's
it's just a really clever writer thing. They said, telephone poles. Okay, cool. That sounds like a Doctor Who monster, doesn't it? A telephone pole attacks people. Okay.
Why not?
It's almost ripe for setting up a story to get in a novel or something down the line. You know?
Or maybe they knew that they're going to come back and revisit that later. Maybe the Doctor's helping the brig in Canada at
One
the
of his
same
incarnations.
time.
A different incarnation.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be something? But yeah, it's normally we talk about how it could have benefited from a cut. These are both ones that I almost wish had been mainline stories with the Fourth Doctor that would have gone a full 4 parts for each one.
Oh, yeah?
Almost. Oh. I said, I love the Fourth Doctor for the same reason I love the Eighth Doctor. I love the quicker paced, let's get in, tell the story, and get out. I really enjoy that. They're much more digestible, I think, in a way.
And with the Fourth Doctor, so many of his stories were 4 parts. So you go in thinking, okay, this is going to be a 4-part story when it's only a 2-part. Although in this case,
well, it was still
technically
it's 2 and 2, so it makes it 4.
It was 4 half-hour stories, so it's
technically it is
just
perfect.
A drastic turn in the middle.
Yeah, but which I can't think of a single of his televised stories that did that.
Not in the middle.
Drastic in the middle, no.
Not in the middle. Invasion of Time.
Invasion of Time, which is a 4 to 2.
2
to 4, isn't it?
And then
no,
it is 4 to 2.
Yeah. And then the Hand of Fear, which we talked about, which was 3, and then 1 off on its own.
Well, even Android Invasion sort of, does.
Yeah, it kind of does the same thing, because so much of it is set here, and then you get to Earth.
Right. You set here on not Earth. And then oh, wait, that's not Earth?
I'll just come back to Leela as being one of the most enjoyable things about the story for me. Just everything she did in this. And her chemistry with the Master was so great. Even if it was an android Master, it was... Oh, it just makes me appreciate her as a character.
I love the whole horse ride thing. And the only reason she takes the Master with him is because, well, you're a Time Lord, you can fly the TARDIS. and they're riding on horseback. My favorite part of the whole story was the horse, but they're riding on horseback, and she's like, well, there's another way, and she just charge into the hole. They just charge into the black hole, or the wormhole, and I thought, that only Leela could do that, because anybody else would have thought, there could be an element of danger here. I know at least enough pseudoscience to know that, wormholes can have just strange effects, or
be on the other side.
I read The Jaunt by Stephen King. I read all these things where there's this adverse reaction. Even in Star Trek the motion picture, when they go through the wormhole, it's not pleasant. And so she's charging a horse through there unprotected, and I thought, okay, only Leela, and they come out fine.
Did anybody else, when she says, well, you can fly the TARDIS, and he says, you're going to teach me how to fly the TARDIS? And I suddenly thought, oh, Shaka Master, because he's an android, and he's going to...
I thought about it later, when it was revealed that he was an android.
Yeah, because we didn't know he was an android at that point.
No, I guess that's true. We didn't. I put 2 and 2 together later, I guess. But
that's what I did later, is I thought, oh, it's so close.
But no.
Nope.
We're still relying on Glenn to fix that one.
Yeah, but I'm getting more fodder.
Now
my whole story will be a reference to everything else. No wonder the timeline was splintered.
Your short story will come with note cards. Go reference this story, then from this audio we're going to pluck this thread, and then from here we're going to do this, and these two form this thread.
Anything else on these stories?
I
I
want
feel
to.
like they're better than we're talking about them. But
I don't want to bring
there's-
everybody down on them. It's not that. I still enjoyed it.
They're
Here's the
enjoyable,
thing,
so there's
we
nothing
have-
to pick apart.
Well, we have very few bad things to say about them. So that's, I mean, the thing about reviewing 2 full-hour stories is there's not a lot to review because the story is very encapsulated in part 1 and part 2, and I'll call them part 1 and part 2, but they're very encapsulated, and there's nothing to pick apart. I mean, there's a few things to pick apart. We've Sean and I both pointed out things, but it just doesn't. Overall, it was an enjoyable story. Felt very Fourth Doctor. It's my Doctor. I'm so ecstatic to have Tom doing audios now and getting new stuff from the Fourth Doctor, because since 1999, when Big Finish started doing these, we've been getting 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then, what was it, 4 years ago when they announced that 4 was going to do his? It was a dream come true, and it continues to deliver, and it continues to me. This whole season has been good. I don't think I've put down any of the stories. There's been parts that problems I've had with stories more so than this one.
Some are better than others.
Yeah,
but none of them have been bad.
It's a sum of its all part. Sum of all parts is it's a good. It's been a great series. It's been a great run, and I look forward to next year when we bring in Romana 1.
Yeah,
and truly looking at it from a season standpoint now, where so this is going to be on the heels of, where did we figure these were placed? As shortly. Was it shortly before or shortly after Talons?
After.
It's shortly after Talons. And so you go into that mindset of that era.
What's between Talons and Invasion of Time?
Right. Well, but I mean, this is meant to be this is meant to be like a whole season inserted in between 2 episodes.
I was trying to remember if those 2 were back to back.
They're not.
Okay. They're not, because Sunmakers is in there.
And Invasion of Time's the last one with Leela.
Yeah.
And Talons is her 3rd story. But you've got Horror Fang Rock, you've got Sunmakers, you've got Underworld, you've got there's a bunch of stuff still to come.
It's still supposed to take
Robots of Death, which was our second.
No, Robots was first.
No,
second.
Or Face of Evil.
Second.
Face of Evil was first. Robots of Death, and then Talons.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 that came before.
I think this is out. Well, we've determined it's for certain after Talons. It could even be, although they didn't really make any mention to it. It could be right after. No, you know what? I bet that's what it is. I bet it's right between Talons and Sunmakers.
It would make sense if you're going to do it in a season format to insert all of it instead of trying to skip around. Just along here. But looking at it in that time frame, so you put yourself in the mindset of that era of the show, and like you mentioned with all of the Fourth Doctor trope stuff, but then we keep getting callbacks to the Third Doctor. We get the Disguise Master. We get his time at Unit. We get the whatever. Oh, I tried to use this to repair my TARDIS and didn't, and so I left it here. And all that kind of stuff, which really harkened back to that era as well. It just really meshed nicely. There was a lot of like you said, fan service. That's really the only way to talk about it. Is just that it's steeped in that era.
And I've talked about before how it didn't quite feel like the Fourth Doctor in Tom's performance in previous stories. Not in these 2. These 2, it definitely it sounded like he hadn't really aged a day.
See, I still hear the age. I try not to. I try to take myself away from that element of it. And
if anything, he's just a bit more baritone. He has a slightly deeper voice, but the performance even just feels so much like what he did on TV. More than some of the other ones that I've mentioned that, not quite. This one more so is on the nail.
According to Wikipedia, the series of adventures is set between seasons 14 and 15 of the classic series. And features Tom Baker and Louise Jameson reprising their roles.
So that is right after Talons and before.
Talons was the season finale.
Or was it? Yeah. Well, here.
To the Google. As we all go.
The little things that bother us. It's like,
Well, it's nice to be able to place in your head where all this is happening.
Yes, Talons
especially
was
when
the
we
end
do
of the
things.
season. Horror Fang Rock was the beginning of the next.
Okay.
So then it was Horror
set
Fang Rock,
between-
Invisible Enemy. That's the other thing, because there's no canine.
Those two,
Yeah.
So her eyes are still brown.
Her eyes are still brown. In this, yes.
Not that that's important at all in audio. But yeah, just I mean, they really have a nice feel for that. And like I said, I hear Tom, and there's so much good dialogue in this too.
Really
the quips
is.
and the back and forth and the doctor's thing about gumboots and being swallowed and do you mind? You still got the end of my scarf and
There's so much to enjoy in it.
But you want to know what made me genuinely excited? Was the next time on Doctor Who teaser where we got, here's a whole teaser for a whole season with the Dr. K9 and Romana One.
Yeah.
I was like, and Jacob Lightfoot coming back. I assume you guys listened to it after the episode ended. That excited me.
Yeah.
I was like, yay.
Want to get more, because it's was this one the Romana 2 or is this Romana 1?
This would be Romana
Romana
1.
1.
Yeah, just to get more Romana
It'll
1.
be interesting where they place those because that Key to Time series is all one after another after another. So
It'd have to be set right after Key to Time, but before she decides to regenerate.
it's the only way I can think.
Yeah. Because I can't imagine you would try and sandwich a whole series of episodes in between this mission for the White Guardian. That seems
excessive.
Even for a Bohemian, that seems a bit long. I'll grant him a half hour for fishing, but or the afternoon fishing.
Well, anything else on these two stories?
I don't think so.
Sean?
No,
I don't think so either.
All right, well.
and our episodes where we like stuff tend to go shorter than the ones where we don't.
Don't forget that you can support us on Patreon. Just go to our website, click on the Patreon button, and you can go there and help us out. Any of your help helps keep this show going, and we appreciate everyone that has supported us so far. You can also buy merchandise on our website from our Amazon store, Spreadshirt, or click on one of those fancy Google ads that pop up on there random from time to time. Every bit of that also goes right back into this show in order to help us produce this and keep going. 3 years, guys. We've been doing it for 3 years.
Yep.
We want to keep doing it. We want to do it for 3 more. So we
At
need
least.
the support. If you don't want us to have to do a pledge drive show, we
I don't know. I could give away a disappearing TARDIS mug for only a pledge of $60.
But yeah, definitely. Whenever you can do to help us out, and of course, follow us on the various places: Facebook, Twitter. We are at Rebel Vortex on there, and that's all I got. Thank you for listening.
Yep,
As always, thank you for listening.
as always.
Do we want to cover the schedule?
Yeah, let's do the schedule.
Yeah,
You don't
schedule is-
repeat everything that we've already talked about. Go ahead.
I don't want to cover.
What
the
is
schedule.
next week?
I don't want to cover the schedule. Just for that.
All creatures, big and small.
All creatures
Great
great
and
and
small.
All creatures great and small.
Big and small, from rhinos to mice.
Well, you're not far off. No rhinos yet.
No
but
rhinos yet.
I have watched episode 1. You can skip it.
Okay.
Peter
Peter
Davison's
Davison is.
not in the first episode.
Well, and we were talking
I-
off
it's-
mic, and
I didn't realize
he
he
didn't
wasn't-
become a full-fledged cast member either until like the 4th series, if I remember right.
I'm not sure when
he's
exactly.
on and off again for the first few seasons.
I, for some reason, thought he was playing James Harriet. He's not playing James
It's
Harriet.
not plain James.
He's the author of the books
Yeah,
that they're based
no,
off
his
of.
name is Jamie.
No, I was looking at it. I don't
See,
remember.
James. So
Tristan or something like that.
That's what it is. It's Tristan. Yeah.
important footnote: if you're going to be joining us next week for Beyond the Doctor with Peter Davidson, we are doing All Creatures Great and Small. You may want to go to the YouTubes and Google
Well,
Peter Davison episodes.
I would go to IMDb first
Or
and
IMDb.
find
Find out
which
which
one.
one.
Yeah.
Which it's 60 some episodes, so there's a pretty good chance you're going to find.
Yeah, you'll
out.
have a good chunk of them.
Don't start with one.
Unless you want the setup for the entire series.
He's a vet.
Well, now that Keith's watched it,
I'll fill you in.
he'll
Yeah,
fill
was there a scarecrow?
No scarecrow.
No scarecrow.
No.
Was there a great hound?
Did they later do a All Creatures Great and Small Down Under? No? Okay. Well,
don't
we're
think
all
so.
right. We're right there then.
There's an 83 and 85 special somehow.
What else
It
do we
aired
have?
in 87.
Our Friday Night Who this week is going to be The Visitation in order to prepare for Peter Davison in Beyond the Doctor, which, of course, we've already reviewed the visitation. And if you've not joined us for a Friday Night Who, that would be an awesome one. I guarantee you there will be at least one rainbow trout joke made on Twitter that week. So that would
it's that one. Okay.
It'd be a really good one to join in on for that.
I get that one and the other
Is that the one that's on
Talking
Netflix?
Wall mixed up all the time.
That's The Awakening.
The Awakening, yeah.
This is what happens, sci-fi
that's
writers,
what
when you give us one-word titles. We get confused.
So true.
The following week is Happiness Patrol with Sylvester McCoy, and then our companion archive on Benny Summerfield, and doing Shadow of the Scourge and The Dark Flame, number 13 and number 42 from the Big Finish main line. And more schedule is posted there. Quick side note, of course, you can follow us on all these places, as Glenn mentioned. If you're in the area, may actually get to follow us for real, because we have several different conventions coming up that we are going to be at, including, we've mentioned before, Time Eddy down in Wichita in October, Topeka's own TopCon at some point in time.
Also in October?
In October.
Yep.
And at least some of us are going to be going to British Fest. I don't know if everybody is up in Omaha.
That's in July.
Or in July. Yeah, well, that's sooner. But
Yeah.
I'm going.
Keith's going.
I'm planning on going.
Keith's going. I don't know about Glenn.
I probably won't be making the trip this year.
So you get 2/3 of us at British Fest up in Omaha, and then we are in negotiations for another one here in town. For I was gonna say, we're for Slash and Bash. We're doing that.
We might show up.
We might show up. So that's an ongoing thing. So
Put Horror Fang Rock or Brain of Morbius on the schedule for that one.
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
my favorite Halloween story. And of course, the corrected schedule is on the website as well. So you have that to look forward to. I think that does it from my end.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.